11th, 2020 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm, East Coast Executives. Today, the topic is owning your achievements, and we have the author of the best-selling book, Run Your Own Race, with us today, Mr. Sidney Evans.
Appreciate you, brother. I'm here.
You're here,
finally,
man. Finally here, right? Listen, and you're here for our last show of the DCSS season. Excited to have you, man. I can't think of a better topic to close the year out with, owning your achievements.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you being here today, man. I know a lot of people are excited about this. I got some feedback on LinkedIn. People are ready. I see them coming in. We have a great audience, Sid, and I want to remind our audience, listen, Sid and I have decided to make this conversation really conversational, but it cannot be conversational without you. So drop those questions in the chat and Q&A, and myself and Kristen will get to them, and we'll just talk to Sid about owning your achievements. Sid, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, my friend.
I appreciate you, brother. Again, thank you guys so much for having me on the last show. I can't believe it. So I'm super excited. So I'm Sidney Evans. I'm the author, first and foremost, of Run Your Own Race. I'm super excited that it released #1 in business consulting on Amazon and Audible. I'm also a brand strategist. I've traveled the world. I keynoted in Cairo, keynoted in Romania. I've done stages all over the world, and I'm super committed to helping you build a powerful personal brand. It really, truly is my mantra in life. So I'm super excited about being here today.
Man, we're super excited to have you. I know you've done this around the world, but we got you here today on the National Urban League platform. So this is what we do. So look, let's just get into it, man. I really want to talk to the people about this because I think it's really important, especially in the COVID-19 landscape, in the world we're living in now. I really think personal and professional branding is the key to kind of moving forward and navigating in this space. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So I think first and foremost, what's vitally important is let's define what achievements are. That's a really good place, I think, for us to start, is to define what achievements are. And, if you think about achievements, achievements are really the sum total of everything in your life, big and small, good and bad. And the reason I say good and bad is because part of what we don't do in life is lean in. We don't lean into the failures. Failures, quite frankly, are achievements in a way, because actually they're teaching you lessons around how to move forward. So I want to pose a question to the audience just to start. How do you define the achievements in your life? Think about that for a second. How do you define the achievements in your life? Because for me, a powerful personal brand really is a sum total of all the things that you've done in your life. Again, big and small. You have to think of it as, it's like a paradigm, right? It's like a shoelace that runs through your life. Everything that you've done is taking you to your true purpose. And in order for you to actualize your true purpose, you really have to embrace what you've done.
Sid, I hear people talk about everything that you've done has gotten you here, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I see the positive spin that you put on that, but I think sometimes people look at that and say, well, I'm not where I want to be. So everything that I've done has gotten me here. But to your point, you still have to own that achievement, right? You're here and you're not where you started. It takes one step at a time.
Absolutely. So if you think about it, and I put some examples in the next couple of slides, if you don't own or acknowledge where you currently are, how do you know where you're going? So part of what happens is, in my estimation, and I work with clients around the world, part of what happens is lack of clarity. So in order for you to even sort of acknowledge where you're going, you have to acknowledge kind of where you want to go, right? So you have to have clarity around, where do you want to go? What is your ultimate goal? One of the things that I tell people is you really have to have a personal vision and mission statement for your life. Run your life like a business, right? Yeah. If you have a personal vision and mission statement around what is your ultimate goal, it makes it a lot easier when you see those achievements. And I'm actually going to give you some strategies moving forward on how to do that.
I hear you speak about, run your life like a business. One of our guests that was on the show in the past, JT O'Donnell of Work It Daily, she says that we all are a business of one. And,
absolutely.
Sid, more than ever now, we're international businesses. Like I'm just looking through the chat. We have people on from Kenya on the chat, first time attendees.
Hey, Kenya.
So, thank you so very much for chiming in with us today. But Sid, so as you're owning your achievements and as you're operating like a business of one, it seems like it's important for you to kind of think out of your normal box, right? And look at branding yourself across a lot of different landscapes and spectrums.
Absolutely. It's vitally important for you to think out of the box. And actually, if you move forward to the next slide, that would be great, because we can talk about how do you do that? And actually, I was just actually speaking in Cairo not long ago, and I spoke to them and I said, you have to think about a time that you thought you failed, but you actually won. Like, we all have these times that we thought we failed, but we actually won. I'll give you one for me.
I was going to ask you, give me one.
I remember the very first article I wrote. I contribute now for Branding Mag. I've contributed for Forbes. I've contributed for Oracle's Marketing Cloud. I've been featured in Black Enterprise. But I remember the very, very first article I wrote. I thought I failed. You know why I thought I failed? Because not one outlet wanted to carry that article. Not one outlet. So imagine you spend all this time, Ken. You're spending all this time writing this article. You feel like you have something really good to say, and I thought I did, and not one outlet picked it up.
Okay.
I thought I failed. But I tell you what, you know what I did? I reframed how I looked at that. And what I did was I published that article on my own. That article ended up becoming the catalyst for me then to write for major magazines around the world.
Gotcha. So, gotcha. Yeah, I think sometimes people believe that to own their achievements, they have to be acknowledged by mainstream media or mainstream, wow, what's the word I'm looking for? Establishments.
Correct.
But I do believe that sometimes, especially now in 2020, with social media and things of that nature, you can build a brand where you can display or put your achievements on display yourself.
1000%. And what I call that is the democratization of information, right? It's the democratization of information. So with social media, you now have the most amazing opportunity, actually, quite frankly, a better opportunity than I ever had, or probably you ever had, Ken, moving forward now, where you can actually go online right now and set up a LinkedIn page, go into LinkedIn groups, set up Instagram, and you actually technically have a brand already. Now, the caveat to that is, again, what I stated before, the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to brands is, number one, lack of clarity, hands down, lack of clarity. Without being clear around what your purpose is, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to move forward. And I also want you to please remember this. Please remember this, guys. If you remember nothing else, you never fail. Every failure is moving you closer to your true purpose. Every failure is moving you closer to your true purpose. So never, never view yourself in the lens in which other people see you.
Know what, Sid? You know I follow you on social media, and I encourage everyone else to across multiple platforms. But
thank you.
I have something that you posted on social media, and it says, this was on Instagram, your Instagram feed, @Sid Inc., right? What is that?
SYDINC, correct.
Define your purpose, then start branding. And
1000%.
Right now, right? Figure out what your unique value proposition is, what's your purpose out here, and then start moving.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks so much for that, Ken. I really appreciate that. That comes from the 6 steps to build a powerful personal brand. And I won't go through all 6 steps, but again, clarity is key first. The second point is...
I'm going to put you on the spot. I think I wanted to hear the 6 steps.
Oh, you want to hear all 6? That's fine. That's fine. You want to hear all 6? That's fine. So number 2 is be authentic on social media. Be authentic on social media. Align with a cause, right? So you have to align with a cause. And what you also have to do, let me talk about authenticity for a minute, right? So part of what people don't do is people actually write what they think other people want to hear instead of writing what you know your core message is, right? So what is your core message, right? You have to really think about what your core message is before you can do anything else. But again, you have to define what you want to say first, right? So again, define your purpose before you start branding, right? 2, be authentic on social media, right? 3, align with a cause. right? Align with the cause. So we're moving to a zone where if your brand is not aligned with a cause, it's going to be very difficult for you moving forward, I would say. Sure. Because what happens is consumers now are very transparent. They're very transparent, and they know when you are not being authentic around what your purpose is, okay? And go ahead.
You know what? So define this for me, right? Because a lot of people, when they hear consumers, they think business to business. But if you're operating as a business of one, your consumer is anybody, right?
Absolutely. Quite frankly, if you think about the brand of you, if you think about yourself as a brand, quite frankly, B2C is your consumer, right? B2C is your consumer. It's not just B2B, right? That's why I'm across multiple platforms, because for me, LinkedIn is more of a B2B platform, right? Instagram is more of a B2C platform. So if you are a brand, then you have to think of yourself as a B2C and B2B.
So Sid, I know we have one of the most intelligent and intellectual audience on the internet. Define B2B and B2C for me, please.
Say it again.
Define B2B and B2C for the audience. So
B2B is business to business, and B2C is business to consumer, right? So whenever you have a product or service, you have to think, is your core market, your target market, another business, or is your target market a consumer?
Got you. Okay. Wow. I'm looking in the chat, man, and I think they're ahead of us, right? I think they're ahead of us. You know, people are talking about, every setback is an opportunity to pivot. Right. So as you're owning your own achievements, kind of speak to me about, how someone can leverage maybe transferable skills or past failures or past accomplishments as they tell their story, whether it be in an interview, whether it be in a sales process, but just anytime they need to pivot, how can they reach back in and take those stories and leverage them for good?
That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked that. Actually, I have a toolkit in the back, it's a couple slides back, but we don't have to go there now. So what I suggest you do, and this is a great strategy for anybody out there, if you think about your achievements in 3 boxes, take A, B, C, right? So what you do is not who you are. Always remember that. What you do is not who you are, right? So think about 3 core skill sets that you have. There's a phenomenal article called the Coherence Premium that everybody should read. And that article states that people and businesses do 3 things really well, right? So for me, I like speaking, right? I'm a people person. I'm a salesperson, right? So what do you do really well, right? So A, B, C, right? When you have your achievements, put them in columns. Put them in columns under your core skill sets. So if you put them in columns under your core skill sets, you'll start to see a trend line that shows up around how you have transferable skills around your achievements. Does that make sense? So if you have A, B, C, again, you have to have clarity first. So what are those 3 things you do really well? And then as you start marking your achievements, put your achievements in those category boxes. And then when you see that trend line, you can start focusing your efforts on that particular core competency.
You know what? I knew this was going to happen because I'm speaking to you. So I said, I'm so excited to sit here. I'm going to jump all over the place, but our audience keeps us in check. I told you we have a sharp audience. Michelle tells us that was only 4 of the 6 principles. Okay. We owe her 2 more. So go through the 6 again. I'm not going to interrupt you. And Michelle, thank you for keeping us in check.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So first, define your purpose before you start branding, right? 2, be authentic on social media. 3, align with a purpose. I forgot what 4 was right now. I forgot what 4 was. Keep going. I forgot what 4 was myself right this second, but 4, and then 5, always state what your true purpose is. Always state what your true purpose is, right? Got that? I see define purpose coming up there. And 6, execute consistently. Execute consistently. You have to execute consistently. So part of what happens is people are not consistent when they execute, right? So you have this vision, what you want to do, but you're not consistent, right? You have to execute consistently. So that should be 6.
All right, look, I got a question from Lynette, and it's dropped in here. I just want to get to it right now. So how do you approach career storytelling while in transition?
Nope. No
I
problem.
pivoted from film and media into the innovation and tech space, but I am struggling to write my story as it's still developing while I seek new roles.
Right.
So how do you, what's your thoughts on how to approach career storytelling while in transition? Now, naturally, as a recruiter, I'm going to say stick to the STAR technique, right? Situation, task, action, result. Tell success stories or even stories of failure that you've learned from and how they've kind of framed your experience in the work you do now. But what's your point on that? Tell me what you think.
So let me just clarify the question. So you mean, so if you're having a career change, you want to change careers and you want to know how to tell that story?
It sounds like Lynette's changing careers and she's going into a different industry. She's moving from film and media into innovative and into innovation and tech. And she's just kind of struggling to write that story because she's still kind of developing it on that side of the business.
Right. And so what I would do is this, Lynette. What I would do is I would pull 3 job description categories from online of dream jobs or the job that you're going into, and actually like literally look down the job description, look down the entire job description and really, really hone in on the things that you did at your old position that are transferable to this new job that you're looking for. Okay. Transferable to the new job that you're going to. So if you pull three different categories of jobs for the new job that you're looking for, not just the one you're going to, and then think about what your core competencies that lend itself to different job descriptions in that new position. Is that helpful?
Yeah, got you. All right, great. Keep going.
Yeah, this audience is on it today, right?
They're on it, man. Every day. I love them. All right, so you want to go to the next slide?
Yep, next slide.
Wow, you got some heavy hitters on this slide.
Right. So the reason I brought this up is because we all know these people, right? We all know Oprah, we all know Tyler Perry, we all know Denzel Washington. And it's so vitally important that we understand that the failures move us forward. So I brought this slide up to, Tyler Perry was living in his car. Denzel Washington was a waiter. We all know Oprah's story. And so imagine the amount of setbacks they had to have and move past in order to get where they are today. Again, like I said, you have to truly understand that every step along the way, every little thing that you do is moving you towards your true purpose. Everything you do is moving you towards your true purpose. You really have to believe that. You really have to reframe your mind to believe that everything that you do is moving you towards your true purpose. And these 3 are really quintessential examples of, imagine the amount of setbacks that they've had. Imagine the amount of times they've had to say, keep moving forward despite all odds. And so I want you to think of yourself, you can be the Tyler Perry in your job. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can be the Denzel Washington in your job as well. You can be the Oprah on your block. You see what I'm saying? Like you don't have to think of yourself as having the ability to be a vehicle for other people and to inspire others as well.
Sid, I'm going to go back to your social media posts again, man, and just some of these jewels are dropping out here. You said, make sure you don't start seeing yourself through the eyes of those who don't value you. Know your worth even if they don't. And that's key to the success of these 3 individuals, kind of not seeing themselves in the situation they're in, but seeing themselves as they want to be.
Yeah, right. Because I think what happens is oftentimes we beat ourselves up. When we're all human, right? And so we beat ourselves up over, human mistakes. And, everybody, let me tell you something. Everybody on this planet makes mistakes. Everybody on the planet makes mistakes, right? And so you cannot let those mistakes define who you are. You have to just move forward and understand that you have a purpose and a value, and you have to just stay consistent around that. And that's why I keep bringing up the consistency thing. Consistency is vitally important for building a powerful personal brand. It's vitally important because I know the times that I feel like, where am I going? What's happening? Am I moving in the right direction? Am I moving, far enough? Am I doing enough? What keeps me through those times are staying consistent around my messaging. And that's why you see so many posts from me on social media, because a lot of times I'm talking to myself as I'm trying to help people stay motivated. A lot of times those messages come from me because these are things that I need to do myself.
So being consistent is the key indeed. So listen, we have some really high achievers on the platform.
Right.
And I know we spoke a lot about failures, and that's here. This is about owning your achievements. So once you start having success and once you start achieving things, what's the mindset shift? How do you own that without seeming like you're boasting or being arrogant? So talk to them about, we got something going on in the chat here where people are sharing their LinkedIn profiles. Right. And I think if you casually reviewed some of those profiles, you're going to see some people that have some real success stories. But how do you own that even in a casual conversation?
Well, the thing is this. So I don't really believe in this whole notion that hubris is something that's a negative, by the way. I really don't. I don't buy that. I don't buy into it. I believe that you are your best publicist. Gotcha. You really are your best. You're your publicist and you're your manager. And so if you don't look at your life like a brand, like a company, you really have to run your life like a company. And every time you get a knock or you get a bad feedback, you cannot let that stop who you are. And if you don't promote yourself, who will? If you don't promote yourself, who will? And let me tell you something. There's a study out, I believe it says 8 to 10 times you have to have penetration in order to post something, in order for people to actually have it penetrate in their head. 8 to 10 times, the exact same post, 8 to 10 times. Well, 8 to 10 times.
My background is sales, right? Although I'm a recruiter, but I'm a salesperson. And they say you need 7 points of contact before you even get a conversation. Right. So that probably holds true to, owning achievements and branding. Like you're going to have to come across somebody's radar, noticeable across somebody's radar, probably 7 to 9 times before they say, hold on, who's Sid Evans?
Correct.
Let me look in.
And they have to see it over and over and over and over again. And somebody asked what number 5 was. Number 5 was, it escaped my mind. Number 5 was add value to others. So that was the 6. I skipped number 5, add value to others. It escaped my mind. See, and that's being authentic. It escaped my mind. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you listen. Sometimes it's a lot up there. So
no doubt about
add value to others is number 6. Add value to others. So define your purpose. Be authentic on social media. Align with a cause. Add value to others. Okay.
Gotcha.
And be authentic.
Let's move ahead.
Okay. This is a great question because I really want to throw this out to the audience, quite frankly, because this for me is these four things stop most people from moving forward, period.
So, wow, what is the largest obstacle hindering you from actualizing your true purpose? Fear, lack of clarity, lack of consistency, lack of execution. Amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing these results.
Yeah. So fear is the number one thing that stops people from doing anything. 2 is lack of clarity. 3 is lack of execution, right? And we can go to the next slide. And lack of consistency is number 4. Lack of consistency. So lack of execution, lack of consistency, lack of clarity, and fear. But the number 1 on that list is fear. Fear of starting that podcast. Fear of what other people might think. Fear of, putting out that post and, wondering how many likes you want to get. Let me tell you something about likes, by the way. Likes do not translate. I'm really passionate about this. Likes do not translate into your value. We have to get off of this notion that people with more likes are worth more. It doesn't mean that, by the way. You can actually have a bigger imprint with a post with less likes than a post that has more likes, by the way, just so we're clear, because they're impressions. So the amount of likes per post is not something that you should be looking at.
Sure.
What you should be focused on is the value that you're offering to other people. Right. If you focus on value, people will follow you. I grew my LinkedIn to over 7,000 followers I grew my Instagram to 1,500 followers, and I don't pay for followers on Instagram. I mean, over 1,500 followers, and that's just organically. Yeah. But the way I did it was add value to others. That's why that's such a key point in building a personal brand. So when I say that, I don't say that just arbitrarily, like, oh, add value. What I mean by that is you have to interact with other people. That's how we met, right? Yes. We met by interacting with other people. So it's not just about you putting posts out. It's about you. What's your skill set? What's your wheelhouse? You have to go in then and actually find people in that wheelhouse and actually start interacting with them, right? Interacting with them. Start commenting on their posts. So I make a point on LinkedIn, actually, that every day on LinkedIn, I comment on, I would say 5 to 10 posts a day. And I'm in easily 30 to 40 groups on LinkedIn. Yeah. And that's another strategy as well, too. When you talk about owning your achievements, once you do that list, I told you that ABC list, I told you, and once you get those core competencies and you start putting your achievements in there, what I would recommend you do is go find LinkedIn groups that speak to that list. Yes. And that was also true for the other person that, no, thank you, Peter. That was also true for the other person that said, you know, how do I transition? Well, you transition, I can't remember her name, Ken, but you transition by once you get those 3 things, right? You're moving into IT space now. How about you go on LinkedIn and join 5 IT groups? Join 5 IT groups. Start interacting in those IT groups on LinkedIn. Start putting your message out there, your perspective. The number one thing people want to see on LinkedIn, I can tell you this hands down, is your perspective. So whenever I share an article on LinkedIn, I always give my perspective on what it is. I don't care what it is. Like yesterday, and I didn't share this yet, but Timberland bought Supreme for $2.1 billion. So before I share that article, I'm going to give my spin on where I thought Supreme was as a brand, why I think Timberland made a good decision to buy Supreme. Like, even if it's 2 or 3 sentences, give some perspective on why you are sharing this article. Don't just share articles on LinkedIn like that. People don't follow that stuff, right? Give a perspective.
Speaking of perspectives, speaking of social media likes, I'm going to keep us in this lane right here, but this is a real challenge for people. We have a question from Elaine, and she says, you know, if you've been laid off, how do you not take that personally and not lose self-confidence in order to move forward towards your next opportunity? Elaine, I do want to share that, you know, we're in a economic downturn right now, so you're not alone. A lot of people have been laid off and furloughed. I know that doesn't make it any easier, and I don't know if it's you or if you're asking for a friend, but, you know, please don't look at that as an indication of your skill set or your level of talent. It's just what's happening right now. But Sid, I want you to speak on that. How do people kind of maintain their confidence, not only in a situation like that, but, you know, there's always imposter syndrome out here, right? You see all of this stuff happening, but how do people kind of stay in their own positive lane?
I mean, I think, you know, what you said is spot on, but, you know, I also think as well, number one, never compare yourself to other people, right? That's first and foremost. Never compare yourself to other people. Understand that this is just part of the process. Even if it wasn't COVID, by the way, and you got laid off, this is part of the process. I was fired. It's in my book. I mean, I put the story in my book. I was fired from corporate. I was fired. I didn't know what was going on. I got fired. And this was, you know, 10, 15 years ago. I had no clue what to do, where to go, how to move. But I tell you what I did know. I knew to stay active, right? And so the story's in the book. So when I got fired, I thought about, again, skill sets. Always go back to skill sets. And this is what's so key about owning your achievements. So what I did was, and I don't speak about this a lot, you know, I'm a professional voice actor as well. So I actually recorded the voice for my book. So when I got fired back then, the reason I'm bringing that up is when I got fired, I actually took that time and I decided to develop on another part of my skills, right? My voice, right? So what I did was I took $600, I made a demo tape, I sent it out to these agents, and I got signed by a major agency, right? And the reason I say that is because if I sat there and wallowed in being fired and didn't continuously think about what other skills do I have? Who can I add value to? What else can I do? You know, how can I move forward? I can tell you, what was her name? Elaine, Ken? Elaine? What was her name? Ken. Yeah. Elaine, there is always value you can offer to other people. always value. You were hired before, right?
Well,
So
look,
you'll be hired again, but there's value you can offer now.
listen, look at the person that's credited with the quote you left, Steve Jobs. Mm-hmm. That's the ultimate I got fired and came back story, right?
Correct. Correct. Exactly. And that's why I put that there, because if Steve Jobs, listen, let me tell you something. If you haven't been fired, you haven't worked. You haven't worked, because I mean, almost everyone I know at some point has been fired. And if you haven't been fired, listen, sometimes they call it attrition, let go, downsizing. They put pretty names on it, right? So the reality situation is, at some point, you will be let go. The days of working somewhere for 30 years are no longer exist, even pre-COVID. So you will be let go at some point.
Hey, Sid, listen, so we have a diversity recruitment firm, right? So people come to us often with that story. Hey, listen, recently lost my job. My first word is congratulations. Because
exactly.
This is the opportunity for you to be where you want to be. A lot of times, Sid, we take jobs because it's an available job. I know a ton of people that were communications majors that work at the post office now.
Right.
Like, listen, you took the job, but now you might have to leave that job. But this is your chance to kind of correct that and get into a field that really inspires you, or something that you're interested in, and move forward with your passion or purpose. And I just think, my first word is congratulations. And listen, I don't wish that on anybody. I understand.
Of course.
We need to be compensated. And typically a job is our road to compensation. So, I feel for anybody that loses their job, especially in times like this when hiring's slow. But listen, don't worry about the numbers, worry about yourself. Focus in on what it is that you do, and 10x your LinkedIn activity. 10x,
absolutely.
You're connecting and networking and land opportunities to have conversations. And then those conversations will lead you into the opportunity you're looking for.
That's such a great point when you say 10x, by the way, because in those downtimes, by the way, in those downtimes, you should be doing 10, I would say 20x, 30x, your involved. Like whenever I feel like I'm in a downtime, I totally ramp up my online presence. I mean, I try to keep it ramped up anyway, but let me tell you, small things like, so I get maybe 20, 30 LinkedIn messages a day. I respond to the vast majority of them. I respond to them, right? I do 3 posts on LinkedIn a day. I do 3 posts on, usually 3 posts on Instagram a day. Like I'm doing it by myself. If you keep moving and you keep executing consistently, trust me, somebody will find your value.
Wow. I love it. I love it, man. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. All right. So the reason I put this here is because owning your achievements, to me, is like running your race. So let me tell you how I got the title of the book, Run Your Own Race. So, many, many years ago, and this was many, many years ago, I was sitting in a restaurant and I met this little short guy, right? We were just talking, right? But this guy had a big personality. I mean, he felt like he was 6 or 7 feet tall, right? And so I talked to him and I said, hey, what do you do? And he said, I'm a jockey. And I said, you're a jockey? And he said, yeah, I'm a jockey. He said, have you ever been to the Kentucky Derby? And I said, no, I haven't. He goes, I said, I would love to go. He said, do you know why horses in the Kentucky Derby wear blinders? And I said, no, I never knew why horses in the Kentucky Derby wore blinders. He said, so they can run their own race. And I never forgot that. I never, ever forgot that. So they could run their own race. And what I'm telling you is you have to look forward. Don't look left. Don't look right. Run your own race. And the reason I put this here for owning your achievements is because I want you guys to really utilize this strategy. I want you to reflect, and this will help you too. For the person who got fired, this will help you as well. Reflect on what you've done thus far. Reflect on, and I want you not just to reflect, write it down, make it tangible, write it down. Reflect on what you've done thus far. I mean, write it down, make it super, super granular, write it down. Acknowledge how far you've come. You've come a long way and you don't even know it. Acknowledge how far you've come. C, I want you to commit to yourself today. I want you to commit to yourself today to tell your story in an empowering way. Do not tell your story in a disempowering way. Commit today to tell your story in an empowering way. E, always remember to evolve. You are not a one-trick pony. You have other things you can do. What you do is not who you are. And I want you to always evolve. So remember that whenever you feel like you're a little bit down, remember that race analogy. Reflect, acknowledge where you come from, commit to telling your story in a positive, empowering way. And E, I want you to always think about evolution.
Wow. So once a person embraces that mindset, take me through some of the vehicles that they can leverage to run their own race.
So meaning some of the ways that they can sort of put that out in the universe.
Yep.
Right. So if, again, and that's why I gave you guys the ABC. So if once you reflect on what you've done, that is the basis. That's the basis of what you're sharing, right? When you write it down, you categorize your achievements. Now you have a basis point on where to go to share the information. Like I spoke about, LinkedIn is probably one of the best platforms for sharing information. But how many of you guys are in LinkedIn groups that speak to what you do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I told you, I'm in 50 LinkedIn groups, and they're not all about branding, by the way. I'm in a lot of branding groups, but I'm also in some other groups that speak to what I do. I'm in some speaking groups. I'm in some whatever, spotlight groups. I'm in some entertainment groups, actually.
Hey, Sid, I want to share that, being in the group is great, but be active, be an active contributor, be an active commenter within the group.
Correct.
And not only will that bring attention to you, but it'll just keep you kind of connected and wanting to go back to the group for additional information. And then when it's your time to pitch or your time to ask for support, advice, consideration, hopefully people will acknowledge that you're an active member of the group and they'll return that favor.
It's ironic you state that, Ken, because I actually get invited to private groups based on that.
Yes.
So I'm in groups where I'm super active. And so again, when I gave you guys the strategy, so it's not like I'm holding information, gave you the strategy. When you post an article or you post something around a field of interest for you, don't just post the article. Give 1 or 2 sentences on what you believe around that. Give your perspective. And because I did that so frequently in some other groups, I got invited to some private groups. And to your point, Ken, and in these super private groups with really, really amazing executives and people globally, you have to do what you just stated. You have to do that. You have to be active. If you're not active, they actually kick you out of the group. So wow. Yeah, they actually kick you out of the group. There's some really amazing groups on LinkedIn, by the way. If you join, I would say join 10. Like Ken said, stay active, stay consistently active. And if you stay active, you'll start to get, to the upper echelon groups, which are more private.
So Sid, I want to talk about this. I think this is important, right? Just in speaking about owning your achievements. So listen, I know it's hard for some to sit there and really take a real look, a real overhead view of where they've succeeded and where they've just been successful in general, right? So Kanika Tolver, great friend, has a book called Career Rehab. We were speaking one day and we just, we were talking about, people, you need a cheerleader, right? For me, you need a squad. You need some people, not to just sit around and sing your positives, but to point out that you've achieved. I sit here myself sometimes and say, wow, okay, I need to do something. I need something to happen. But I spoke to a gentleman yesterday who was like, yo, you're everywhere. Like every time I turn around, you're doing some.
You are everywhere.
But no, so, and I appreciate that. And thank you. And you say that as well. But listen, I'm a high achiever. So I look for things like, if I don't have something going on today, I'm trying to make something happen today.
Correct.
But that's me, where I know people, there are a lot of people like me to sit around and you may have some success stories, but you don't see them in your own eyes. You just see it as part of the process, but you're looking for more, right? So
absolutely.
How do people find individuals in their network that can be that for them?
I'm so glad you brought that. I had goosebumps. So glad you brought that up because it's actually in my book. Every person should have a personal board of directors for their self. It's in my book, a personal board of directors. You need 5 people 5 people, 3 to 5 people who are not just going to sugarcoat stuff, who are going to hold you accountable, And whenever you hit those ebbs and flows, as everybody inevitably does, because we're human, ebbs and flows, these 5 people are going to be your sounding board. And again, these are not 5. Notice what I said. I didn't say 5 friends. I said 5 people. 5 people who are going to give you the straight talk around what you need to do and how you need to do it. And let me tell you, my 5 people, they're always on me like, bro. And I'm not. Listen, I think I'm pretty active. I'm not as active as Ken. Ken's active.
Stop it.
Ken's active. But I'm telling you, I got 5 people that are like, bro, you're not active enough. What are you doing next? When's book number 2? Literally, I got a call from one of my board of directors, my personal board of directors, that said, when's book number 2 coming? Did you start yet? What's going on? Yeah. I thought you would have started by now. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, I just did an online platform. I just spoke in Cairo virtually. We're building out an online summit. He's like, when's book number 2 coming out? What are you doing? You don't have a date for it yet? Set a date. And that's also a very powerful thing to do as well. Whenever you want to achieve something, even if you don't make the date, put a date on it. You got to put a date on it. So you have a metric in which to measure what you're doing.
Makes it real.
Correct.
People respond.
But get a personal board of directors. I'm telling you, get a personal board of directors. 5 people, not your friends. It can be your friend, but get people who want to give you straight talk.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, Sid, we're so insular in the way we operate typically. So if it's not your friends, and I don't know, do you want them to be just colleagues? Do you want them to be random people? Like, it has to be people that can look at you objectively. Like, who do you suggest? Like, where do we start to get this board of directors?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is an amazing place to start for that, right? Because what you want to do is find like-minded people, but you also want to find your North Star. So one of the best tools that I utilize is I always look at my North Star. Like, where do I want to be in the next? 5 years? Who's in that lane right now, right? And so for me, when I started the C-Suite for Branding Mag, that was all literally, it was an idea. I said, I want to interview CEOs from around the world. And I just literally cold called my first CEO. I said, hey, listen, I'm starting this thing. It's going to be 5 questions around branding. Are you interested? He said, send me over the 5 questions. Go ahead.
Right. So I want to speak about this because I don't want people to kind of get confused by this. LinkedIn is a great place, right? It's an exceptional place to network, but you have to approach that with a value add yourself. You can't just reach out to people and say, you know what, I want you to do this for me. Please keep in mind to frame things around how you can support the work of other people. It just makes it a much softer landing spot for you when you need some support. But I get a lot of LinkedIn requests and people that I really am not even that familiar with, and they reach out with a real ask. And everybody's time is money. Everybody's time is pretty valuable. And as much as I like to support and help people, you can't help everybody. We did a avoiding ageism conversation with Indeed recently. And Sid, there was 17,000 people registered, 5,000 people on the actual webinar. My inbox hit like 320 of people requesting that I review their resume, that I answer these questions and things of that nature. I can't get to everyone, needless to say, but our commitment is really real here at East Coast Executives. So I sat down and answered them all. I answered them all. It took me a week. It took me a week, but I answered them all. So how do people add value in owning their achievements, right? How do you go to people and add value when you're making that ask for a board of director candidate?
Right. And let me be super clear, because I completely agree with you. I get a number of, messages, not I need 320, but I get a number each day around people just asking, things where, quite frankly, I just can't answer every single one. So I totally agree with you on that. LinkedIn, to your point, is just one vehicle for you to do that. But what I would recommend you do is this, first and foremost. Build your profile on LinkedIn first. I wouldn't start just reaching out. People will find you if you have clarity around what your messaging is, if that makes sense. So if you're clear around what your value proposition is, so everybody has a what you do better than anyone else, right? Which is called your value proposition. So what do you do better than anybody else? And I remember we talked about, people do 3 things really, really well, which are your core competencies, but you do one thing really, really well. I would start building your LinkedIn profile, because when you start building your LinkedIn profile and you stay consistent, people will start actually coming to you and start being attracted to you. Again, if you give that perspective around certain areas that you're interested in, maybe it's nuclear physics, maybe it's whatever it might be media. If you start giving perspective around that, staying consistent and building your profile, people actually will reach out to you. It's not always about title. People want to see consistency and value.
Yes, indeed. Hey, Sid, I'm all in this Q&A. Stacy has a request for you, but Stacy, at the end, I'm going to have Sid give his contact information and you reach out to him accordingly and ask that question. All right? Okay. All right, Sid, also, so we have a question from, I believe it's Deborah. And she's like, hey, listen, if you're starting anew, do you just delete your social media presence or do you just keep it up?
I'm sorry, go finish the question, because I actually have a position on that.
Do you delete it or do you just clean it up?
What is she speaking, Instagram or LinkedIn?
No, what? Yeah, Deborah, if you can kind of clarify, but we'll bounce around it. Hey, Sid, look, you can make the one you have private and start a new one. She says all. She's actually looking at all of her social media presence. So
I would say it depends on to your point, you can make your Instagram private, but to your point, if it doesn't align with where you want to go, I would delete it and start a new one. I really would. I would delete all the content on that particular one. In fact, I had one of my personal board of directors told me to do that for mine. Remove a lot of the older posts, right? Because a lot of those older posts from 3 or 4 years ago, and there's an app on Instagram called InstaClean, which makes it easier to do that. I think you can remove 50 posts or something a day. It's called InstaClean on Instagram. It's an amazing app, so you can remove a lot of the old content.
Well, never heard of that. Thank you for that share. This is why people tune into the Digital Career Success Series. We drop jewels like that. InstaClean.
It's called InstaClean. Yeah, and it actually is the same color as the Instagram logo. So you'll know it from there, because I might be a lot of knockoffs, but it's the same, like that brownish color, like the Instagram logo. It looks just like that, but it's like a trash can, called InstaClean.
All right, so I'm jumping into these questions, man, and I believe you got another slide, but
slide. Yep.
Let me get this one off the table real quick. How can you secure a mentor when you tell them all that you're working? When you tell them all what you're working on and inquire with them about how you can be of help to them, and they don't tell you. All right, so I get the question. How can you secure a mentor if you don't know where they need you to add value, basically? They have agreed to be my mentor, but don't actively engage. Sid, I got something for you. I'm going to tee you up for this one, my friend. So,
tee me up.
I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, you are probably, because you said you've done some stuff with Black Enterprise, but Alfred Edmond, right? Senior editor at Black Enterprise. He did an article on mentorship, and he said he demands of his mentees to share with them how they can support him. Why should he be their mentor? What are they doing as a mentee that would allow for him to do that? And I just think it's a powerful thing. I think people reach out to you and say, hey, would you be my mentor? But I think it's probably much better if you can position how you can support them as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. So I recently had 2 people approach me to be their mentor. And it's ironic you state that around Alfred, because I did the exact same strategy. So I was speaking at the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, and somebody from there recommended somebody, I want, Sid should be a mentor. And so the person reached out to me. And so what I did was I threw it right back in their lap. Because what you have to understand from a mentor's perspective is, and everybody's busy. It's not a personal thing. Everybody's busy. But from a mentor's perspective, you want to see commitment on the other side, right? You want to see commitment. You don't just want to see value. You want to see how committed. And so I threw it back. I said, well, tell me what you're offering to me as a mentee. I never heard back. I never heard back. It's ironic. But see, that's a good thing though, right? That's a good thing, because what that shows is it probably wouldn't have been a good fit. Listen, life is about fit. It's really not rocket science, bro. It's really about fit. And so it wouldn't have been a good fit, because I agree with Alfred. I require if somebody wants me to mentor them, I require to get some value. And by the way, value comes in a lot of different forms. Like, I'm not a tech guy. Like, I'm not a tech guy. So if you want to, so as a mentor, I can show you some strategy stuff, some big picture stuff. Maybe you can teach me tech stuff. You see what I'm saying? There's a two-way street in order to keep it going. But the other thing I'll tell you about mentor-mentee relationships, and I learned this in grad school, you have to define the metrics. Put it on paper.
Gotcha.
Because we had, so when I like I said, when I was in grad school, we had assigned mentor-mentees. That was part of the program. But part of the assignment was we had to define as a mentor-mentee. It wasn't just one way. I had to define from my side what it looked like, and then the mentee from their side had to define what it looked like from their end. So I recommend even if you just do a one-pager, put 3 things or 4 things that you guys expect. And then just the last thing I'll say around this. And that can be as granular as when we'll speak, how long will we speak, will we meet once a month, that kind of thing. So you have to like literally get granular around it. Because what happens is I had a mentee maybe for 3 or 4 months. And what happens is 3 or 4 months goes in, and then boop, boop, it's gone, goes away. And no mentor wants to share their intellectual property, their proprietary information for somebody who they think is just there and going to leave.
Sure. Talk to me about this slide here.
Okay. So owning your achievement. So we actually hit on this as we've been talking, but you have to figure out who your target audience is. You got to run your life like a business. Who's your target audience? And that's why I brought up the LinkedIn groups thing, because I just think it's a great way for you to target your audience. But you can even target on Instagram. And by the way, on Instagram, if you're not utilizing, I don't know how you're using your Instagram, so that's up to you. If you're using it as a personal platform, awesome. I tend to use mine as a business platform. If you're utilizing it as a not business platform, but utilizing it to build my personal brand, I should say. If you're utilizing Instagram in that way, you got to use hashtags. You got to use hashtags. It's vitally important. I know it's kind of a pain sometimes, but you got to use hashtags. And as well, in the location box at the top of any post, now the new thing is to put in there something that also helps further granulate your search. So if I have something where I'm, like you did, whatever, the 6 steps of brand, I'll have personal branding in that location box, or live your dreams. And then I'll have hashtags. And by the way, the little trick with hashtags, I use the same 5 or 6 hashtags, and Ken can probably tell you, brand rock stars, we win together. I say them over, because what happens is I'm building muscle memory for my audience. So I'm building muscle memory. So when they see it, oh, that's in fact, somebody hit me up from overseas the other day. They said, oh, you're the brand rockstar guy. I'm like, no, you just see brand rockstar on my hashtags all the time, right? Because I'm teaching you how to think of it. Run your own race, brand rockstar. We win together. Come up with 5 or 10 hashtags that speak to who you are.
Hey, Sid, we're coming down the stretch here. Okay. So let's go to the next.
This was fun, brother. I love this one.
So talk to us.
All right. Action plan. All right. This is what I want you guys to do. So we already talked. Actually, this is easy because we already talked about. Write everything down. Right. So write everything down that you've done. A, B, C. I want you to categorize. So again, let me just go through what I meant by that. You do 3 things really well. This is what you do is not who you are. You do 3 things really well. When you write down all your achievements in one box, right? One big box. You have 100 things that you did this year. A, B, C. So A, I'm a salesman. B, I'm a speaker. C, I'm a whatever those 3 things are. I want you to literally, you can do it on a computer. I want you to literally move those achievements into the A, B, C category. Once you get that A, B, C category, then you start targeting your audience and start targeting them consistently. And the last thing that I want you to do, I want everybody on this call today to do, is write your own personal elevator pitch. If I meet you, I can't tell you how many people I meet and I say, what do you do? And they go, I'm a sales. No, that's not what you do. What your elevator pitch? Give me one sentence on what you actually do. I build brands globally. I help people win. Like, give me an elevator pitch on what you do and how you do it. Okay?
There's been some interesting conversation in the career space about elevator pitches and micro pitches because we live in this very quick hashtag world, right? I love that pitch. I consider that like a micro pitch. It's not 20 to 30 seconds.
Correct.
It's a really quick statement that gives a very clear understanding of what you're about. That's good stuff right there.
Awesome. Yeah, because the thing is, you meet 10 people, that's why I like the micro pitch. You meet 10 people, I say I build brands, guess what? Yeah. Who you gonna remember?
Got it, build brands.
Brands. What's up? Yeah. We can talk about it. You want to talk about it? Let's go.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next slide.
All right. I think the next slide is just a sign off. Yeah, LinkedIn, we already talked about that. Social media is your new best friend. We can go past that. And this is just background on the book. If you guys want to get the book, I appreciate it. You don't have to. And if you get the Audible, actually a new account on Audible, I think it's free. And you get to hear me read the book to you. You get to hear me, remember to read the book to you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. You get the book read to you from Sid Evans.
From me personally. And by the way, it's not perfect, but I did it. Execute.
That's it. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you, my friend?
Yeah, so you can get in contact with me on Instagram, SYDINC. So Sam Young David INC. And then LinkedIn is Sidney Evans, SIDNEYEVANS.
All right, Sid, they're going to kill me for this. Kristen's probably back there telling me, get off. We're coming up against the deadline. We got one more question, my friend. Okay. Peter, because she's been here from the beginning of this actual conversation, I have to get her question in. Thank you so very much. She says, if most of your experience is in one field and you're interested in exploring other ventures or opportunities, how would you curate your LinkedIn profile to highlight your core competencies as to limit the myopic presence of your skill set? No, I'm not even going to go that deep. How do you curate your LinkedIn profile to highlight your core competencies? For example, what would you put in your title?
Right. So what I would do is I would put my title, forecast where you want to go, Peter. So where do you want to go? Find your North Star and forecast where you want to go. And the other tip I'll give you, Peter, is to don't be so super specific. Keep it slightly macro, so people have an opportunity to see you in multiple veins. So if you find a North Star, keep it slightly macro so people can see you in multiple veins based on your skill sets. If you need help with that, send me a note, Peter, because you've been on the call, and I'll definitely help you with that.
Man, Sid, listen, man. Now, that's the Sidney Evans that I know and love right there. Somebody that really gives to people.
Yeah. Anybody from this call, by the way, anybody who was on this call that took their time that emails me, or my email is SYDINC@gmail.com, but you can always hit me up on Instagram, SYDINC@gmail.com. If you were on this call and you send me a note, I will definitely respond back to you.
I love it. Thank you.
I love you. I love you, Ken. You're great, brother. You really are.
Thank you so very much for just being such an open giver. Listen, as we had mentioned, this is our last show of the season. And I'm just excited that everyone took the opportunity, man. We've had some people that have been here.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you.
Consistently, man. So, I don't have enough time to thank all of our 2020 guests, but believe me when I share that I've enjoyed and valued the contribution of every single guest. I'm simply humbled by the support and respect that people have for the Digital Career Success Series platform. Of course, I have to again thank the National Urban League for allowing me to host this. The UL Jobs Network team, Theveline Felix, Tristan Bray, and I can't even forget Clarissa Moses. She did like my first 2 shows here, Sid. So great people. Yeah. Thank you all.
And thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Kristen, in the back. Thank you, Kristen. Kristen's awesome.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank Wanda Jackson for guiding us through this 2020, man. This 2020 has been like no other. She's a true leader and kept us on course and kept giving us ideas for programming, and I really appreciate that. Sid, I got a few special memories I want to share from 2020. Stephanie Humphrey came through, Tech Life Steph, and we did the What the Tech show. We did that live from the New York Urban League studio.
Nice.
Amazing. Minda Harts came through and shared.
I know Minda.
Yeah, Minda came through, gave us a seat at the table. We did that live at Microsoft headquarters in Times Square. That was amazing as well. As I mentioned earlier, JT O'Donnell stepped away from work at Daily to help us pandemic-proof our job search and add perspective on mass layoffs and furloughs when we were in the midst of the pandemic. Listen, we did a National Urban League virtual job fair panel in 2020 with Valisha, Lauren, and Deanne, 3 amazing Black women that are doing some incredible things out here in the world. And they spent some time with us for our annual job fair. We did a virtual panel. That was great. But most of all, Sid, I'd just like to thank all of the members of our audience just for joining us every other Wednesday. They always had questions. They always had words of support. And most importantly, they offered their time. Thank you. Listen.
Yeah. Thank the audience as well. Thank the audience as well. I appreciate it. And Ken, wait a minute. I'm not gonna leave without thanking you, brother. I'm telling you, we're getting a lot of great feedback. This is awesome. Thank you guys so